This video is part 2 of my study of chapter 2. Christian Prince thinks that Saul or Paul is the same Paul of the Bible, who he claims is one of the greatest prophets in Islam. I'll start reading from chapter 2, verse 243. Let's say we start there. Have you not considered the miraculous case of those from the children of Israel who, in the spirit of cowardice, departed from their dwellings in thousands, fearful of death? Whereupon God said to them, Die all of you, and thereafter brought them back to life. Indeed, God is ever bountiful to all people. But most people do not give thanks for the plenty God gives them. So have no fear, and fight on in the path of God against aggression. And know that God is indeed all-hearing, all-knowing. Who is that special one who shall loan to God a goodly loan for his cause, so that he may multiply it for him many times over? For it is God alone who withholds and extends reward and abundant provision, and to him alone shall you all be returned. Have you not also considered the case of the elders of the children of Israel after Moses? They said to a prophet of theirs, Appoint for us a king, and we will fight in the path of God. He said, Might it be that if fighting is prescribed for you, you will not fight? They said, Why should we not fight in the path of God, while truly we have been driven out of our own dwellings, and deprived of our children whom they have killed? But when fighting was prescribed for them, they turned away from it, all but a few of them. And God is all-knowing about the wrongdoers who are godless in heart. Thus their prophet said to them, Indeed, God has appointed Saul for you as a king. They said, How can it be that he shall have kingship over us, while we are nobles, more worthy of kingship than him, and while he has not even been given any abundance of wealth? He said, Indeed, God has chosen him over you, and has increased him amply in knowledge and in stature. So my question is, isn't Saul supposed to be the other name of Paul in the Bible? Here, Saul is a king, and this is, as we just read, after Moses' time. So Saul is a Jewish king, appointed as king, although he was not a wealthy or so-called, noble person. He said, Indeed, God has chosen him over you, and has increased him amply in knowledge and in stature. For God gives his dominion to whomever he so wills, and God is all-compassing, all-knowing. Thus their prophet said to them, Indeed, the sign of his kingship is that the ark of the covenant will come to you from the hand of the enemy, wherein shall be tranquility for your hearts, from your Lord, and a remnant of what the family of Moses and the family of Aaron have left behind. So note here that it is a remnant of what the family of Moses and the family of Aaron have left behind, meaning that they have passed on. Their descendants at this point exist, but family of Moses and Aaron are gone. And carrying it shall be the angels. Indeed, in this there is a sure sign for you, if indeed you are believers. So when Saul set out with the hosts of Israel, he said, God shall indeed test you with thirst when you come to a river. Thus whoever drinks of it is not of me, and whoever does not taste it, he is of me, except one who is compelled to scoop up a single scoop with his hand. but they all drank their fill of it, except a few of them. Then, when he had crossed it, he and those few who believed with him, they said in their council, "There is no force of strength for us today, compared with Goliath and his hosts." So now we know that this is the age of, David. But those who realized that they would certainly meet God, how many a small company of believers has prevailed over a more numerous company? Sorry. Okay, so it says, but those who realized that they would certainly meet God said, how many a small company of believers has prevailed over a more numerous company of the ungodly by God's permission? And God is with those who are patient. So when they came forth to engage Goliath and his hosts, they said, "Our Lord, pour forth upon us patience." Okay, and then they fight and vanquish those enemies of God by God's permission. And then David kills Goliath. And God gave him kingship and prophetic wisdom. Okay, so this is after Saul. So now we find that Saul has passed on and David is king. So we'll continue reading from here. Moreover, he taught him of divine and worldly matters, whatever he so willed. And were it not for the decree of God to repel some people by means of others, the whole earth would most surely become corrupted. So where do we see anything about Saul being the greatest prophet in Islam, and that he is the same Paul of the Bible? So we don't find that. The interesting thing also is that the family of Moses has, passed on, and now we find we are in David's kingdom now. Saul has also passed on, and now it's the kingdom of David, right? These are the revealed verses of God. We recite them to you with the very essence of all truth. For indeed, O Muhammad, you are most surely one of the chosen messengers of God. Of these messengers we have shown preference to some above others. Among them are those to whom God has spoken, and some of them he has raised higher by degrees. Thus we give Jesus, son of Mary, clear and miraculous proofs to confirm his truth. So now we see here that Jesus is mentioned after the mention of David. So it seems to be like a chronological order, and so this shows that Jesus and Mary were not even alive during the time of Moses and Aaron in chapter 2, which proves that any claim by Christians that Mary was the sister of Harun and Musa is a false claim. It's can't be, because according to chapter 2, Jesus comes much later than Moses and Harun, and the Ark of the Covenant was mentioned, as we see, and this is carried by angels for the believers as a sign. Okay, so I think I'll finish there for tonight. Assalamu alaikum.